We are gathered here today to talk about Miss Wendy Williams and her documentary, Where is Wendy Williams, that has just come out this past weekend on Lifetime. I hope that you guys have seen it. I definitely did, and my thoughts are probably going to be all over the place. I did prepare a couple of notes, but it just really saddens me that this is the current state of Wendy Williams. I, along with a lot of other people, especially a lot of young people, grew up with Wendy Williams on the radio, especially on the TV, and so it is just really a travesty to see, the deterioration of such a star and prominent figure in our culture. But I don't even know where to start. Like, let's start with her manager, Will. I really try to see the best in everyone, and I tried to see the best in him, but the worst popped out towards the end when they asked, like, do you think that Wendy is ready for a podcast or to be back on TV? And then his answer was not good, right? Like, we can all see, like, just looking at Wendy, that she should not even be in the spotlight. She should not be in the spotlight. She should not be recorded anywhere. Just her appearance is just not even there. You can immediately tell that something is wrong with her when you're looking at her and when you see her eye sockets and stuff like that. Her wig is a lot of times sliding back in the chair, and no one takes note of that. But anyway, Wendy wants to be back on TV, right? And I'm sure that in a perfect world we would all love that, and Will wants to make that happen for Wendy. But I don't even know what are Will's credentials to be a manager for such a prominent figure. Like, he said that him and Wendy met in the nightlife, in the club scene. I've listened to other people talk about him, and they said that, like, Will is kind of her handler, and he reminds her of her ex-husband Kevin, who was kind of rough around the edges. And I have to agree, for real. So Will, he said that he brokered some jewelry for her, and then they became friends, and now he's her manager. But, like, what experience does he have in TV and film and broadcasting in order to manage the career of Wendy Williams? I don't understand that. And I definitely don't think that she should be doing anything that is video recorded. If she wants to do a podcast, I guess, but, like, as the producer said behind the camera, Wendy isn't really good with expressing herself these days. And so why would we let a public figure, do that? And when they spoke to her family about it, they were in disagreement with it as well. And I can't even argue with that. But at the very least, give her an audio podcast so that she is not on camera. Record a season 1, do several recordings in just like private recordings on video, and see how that turns out. But hey, I know that she needs some place to express herself, and even in the documentary they gave her some magazines of some tabloids, like People Magazine or something like that, and they asked her if she missed it, and she said yes. And that was kind of heartbreaking, because it's like, wow, like, this is what I used to do every day, this is what I'm about, this is me, and all of a sudden I can't do this anymore. And that is one of the big things that I took away from this documentary, and I think a lot of people should take away from this documentary. I saw, a lot of tweets, a lot of people saying, like, Wendy is dealing with her karma for all of the not so good things that she said about a lot of people in her career. And honestly, I have to disagree. I mean, once I see the state that she's in and her whole situation, like, all of that stuff kind of goes out the door. Ask me one negative thing that Wendy Williams has said something about. I don't know, because it's not that important. So someone said, shout out to my boy Nick on Twitter, said, it doesn't sit right with me when you people say that's Wendy's karma. Are you trying to say you have never wronged someone or said something bad about them? Well, guess what? You're human. No one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, and everyone sins. That could be you or anybody else in Wendy's shoes one day. It's not our place to decide whether Wendy deserves this. We don't know what the future holds. We should just pray for her. I couldn't agree more, because a lot of people seem very insensitive to what's going on, and it's like, you guys haven't been through anything. Do you have elderly people in your family? Have you or someone ever experienced, like, one night of one fall, and all of a sudden their health has declined and their life is now changed for forever? And the thing about Wendy Williams, for us fans and even for her family, is that, like, the Wendy that we knew 10 years ago no longer exists. She is gone. And we all have to mourn that. We all have to mourn the Wendy Williams show and who we knew Wendy Williams to be, because she is no longer. And that is even harder as a family member. Some questions that I had, she's away from her family. Why hadn't she seen her son in 8 months? And that decision to move her back to New York, even if her show didn't come back, why is she in New York? And that apartment that she's in, it looks pretty small, but it seems like there's multiple floors in the apartment. What is the relationship between her son and his father, right? Kevin Jr. and Kevin Sr. and his new baby and stuff like that. I wonder, does Wendy herself get an allowance to pay her expenses and to pay the staff that she has around? And we can stop and talk about the staff real quick. Like that, so we talked about Will. We didn't speak about the girl who works with Will as her manager. And I kind of, like, she was like speaking back to Wendy in like a more, like, kind of putting her in her place when, how Wendy would get uncontrollable and be like, oh, like, ordering people around and being a little disrespectful. She would kind of talk back to her and say, like, that's not necessary, which I actually thought was pretty helpful, because it helps Wendy to, like, snap out of whatever she's in comparison to Sean, the publicist, who it's like me, she seems like a little bit sensitive and she doesn't express negative emotions or when she feels uncomfortable, but you can see it all over her face. And I laughed at times where it was inappropriate of me to be laughing in the scenes where she had them go get the vape. Oh my god, why is Wendy even using a vape? Like, this is so crazy to me. But you know, they go and get the vape, and she wants to pass by where the show used to be, and she's having the girl going back and forth and trying to get what the girl doesn't even know what she's supposed to be getting. And that was so painful to watch, but it was also a little bit funny. That girl, obviously both Will and the publicist and the other girl who was the manager, they're all getting paid to be there. It's like people want to seem like they're genuine, but at the end of the day, like, they need their bills paid too. And I'm just wondering, like, where is that money coming from? Wendy expressed how she's lonely and she doesn't have anyone's number. Will was like, you know so many people, and she's like, but no one comes around, no one says hey, no one calls me, no one texts me and stuff like that. She seems to be very isolated. Wendy needs a lot of psychotherapy and psychological observation and stuff like that, dealing with aphasia and dementia, but also being this public figure. You know, the verbal abuse was definitely painful to watch of her staff. And towards the end, when we started to talk a little bit more about the alcohol, Will was saying that, like, he goes around the apartment and throws out the alcohol. And even in the scene where they were at the restaurant, and all of them, I'm like, why are you guys even drinking alcohol with her sitting right there? Like, that literally makes no sense. So she orders a glass of wine, and then Will gets up, says, oh, I'm going to the bathroom. And then he speaks to the waiter and says, no alcohol for her, give her something virgin. He brings her a martini, but for some reason, right, I don't know if Will only did that because the cameras were there and the cameras were rolling, and then it showed him going through the apartment looking for bottles of alcohol in, you know, different spaces, including under the bathroom sink. And I'm just like, if you're so adamant about her not having alcohol, her son is adamant about her not having alcohol, but she still has bottles in the house that we saw on the dresser, how is this alcohol getting into the apartment? Who's doing it? Who's getting it? With what money? Is there another assistant that we don't know about? Is it Will, or is it that other girl who also works on the management team? It was interesting to see DJ Booth there as well. His experience with Wendy's near-death experience, and he couldn't even really speak on that. DJ Booth, he seems very someone who's like a little bit more genuine, that he really checked up on Wendy, especially during the pandemic, and he was the only one that she allowed in her house. He seemed like he wanted to be a part of the documentary, but didn't want to all the way go along with it. I don't know, too much things going on there. But I also wonder, is her son equipped to handle her estate, at least by himself? Obviously, he needs to work with financial advisors and stuff like that, but the excessive spending on $100,000 in DoorDash or Uber Eats is super, super crazy to me, especially in a year. Like, come on. And then $80K in rent in Miami, and then what was it, like $120,000 on a birthday party? That I wouldn't even dispute a lot, even though I want to, because that seems very, very excessive. But $100,000 in Uber Eats, like, boy, if you don't sit down and learn how to cook something, if somebody don't learn how to cook something, like, that is super crazy. Why is your rent $80,000? I don't care how rich your parents are. Even if they are rich, what are you doing? Like, and this is like no shade or anything, but like, what is Kevin doing? Like, does he have a career on his own? Does he have a business? Because at least try to supplement that tab with your own money. Like, $80,000 on a apartment. At this point, you should buy a house. Like, there's no reason why you should be costing $80,000. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know if there's going to be more parts of this documentary. I only watched the first 2 that is out right now, and I might really return to it because this is just so interesting to me, and I really, really hope that they get Wendy back to her family. It seems like a lot of people are concerned about her, and this documentary was shot in 2022, and so it's 2024 now, I believe. I could be wrong. I really don't know a lot about it, so if I am, please correct me. But I just wonder how Wendy is doing today, and you know, how is her health progressing or not. But we have to pray for her, and we have to keep her in our hearts, and just remember all of the great times that Wendy gave us in life. And you know, my heart goes out to her family and all that stuff. So I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. If you did watch to the end, I really appreciate it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and we will talk soon.